So, as mentioned, let's make sure we all have the foundations right and start with a hello to ASP.NET 0. If we need to describe ASP.NET 0 in a single sentence, the following would cover it. ASP.NET 0 is a starting point for new web applications with a modern UI and a solid architecture. It's the first code that you see when you go to the ASP.NET 0 website. And yes, I have shamelessly copied it here, since it really wraps nicely what the product is all about. Using ASP.NET 0, we can start from a base solution from which you have the source code and can thus make all the changes you want. It features a modern UI built with the latest technologies, and underneath the covers, it's built on proven patterns and practices. So, why would you choose for using ASP.NET 0? As mentioned, it will give you a head start on your application development. Let me put it this way. When you as a developer are asked to start working on a new project, we all start thinking about all the things we need to do before one line of business code will actually be written. We need to think of technologies we're going to use. We need to set up the architecture. We need to make sure that everything is secure, and so we'll invest time in authentication and authorization. We'll need to bring in logging, exception handling, and so much more. I'm sure you can recognize this problem. I've faced it myself many times in the past. It's a costly situation for sure. ASP.NET 0 brings all of that already in the box. The questions I've just outlined and many others are already answered for you. We don't need to reinvent the wheel with every new project we start. A lot of projects can run on the same foundation. It even brings added value in that the team members will recognize the same patterns being used across projects, thus making them more productive. They don't have to investigate how everything works. No, instead, they know the foundation of the project and can get started straight away. ASP.NET 0 is an opinionated framework, and quite some features have already been decided for you. However, it uses the latest and most commonly used frameworks. That is, of course, a good thing. ASP.NET 0 is built like a foundation, just like your next project should be built. When you start a new project, there are so many things to think of. Even if you think of all of them, the way that you implement the architecture might not be ideal. ASP.NET 0 is based on solid principles. The solution you'll get, and that you'll be building your application on top of, is based on a lot of experience and best practices building large and complex applications. The structure of the solution is layered and modular and uses dependency injection across the board. For your domain logic, it also can use DDD, so domain-driven design principles. This means that it's feasible to handle complex domains with what you get out of the box with ASP.NET 0. As I already said, ASP.NET 0 uses the latest technologies, both on the server and the client side of the application. It's always a challenge when starting a new project to decide on technologies to be used. Well, when you decide on using ASP.NET 0, that choice has already been made for you. You may be thinking, hey, I have less freedom to choose what I want. Well, in many cases, that actually is a good thing. It's a hard job sometimes to find all the bits and pieces that work nicely together. And rest assured, they use the latest versions. The selected frameworks also aren't any obscure ones, which aren't commonly used. No, instead, they are using the most commonly used ones. Related to that, ASP.NET 0 doesn't just contain a single solution, it contains multiple ones. I'll show you the different technology options you get very soon, but expect .NET Core, Angular, jQuery, ASP.NET MVC, and Xamarin options amongst others. Typically, one of the biggest challenges when building a new application is the security aspect. Making sure that the site is working securely, that only authenticated users can access information they are authorized to see, and so on. Those are typically underestimated. In an era of data leakages and security issues all over the place, it's something that you have to get right the first time. It's terrible for your business to be in the news as the next company which got its security wrong. ASP.NET 0 will handle a large portion of this as well. Its built-in security system is based on the proven ASP.NET Identity Framework, part of ASP.NET Core. This industry standard framework is built with best practices in mind and is used by millions of applications. It also integrates with Identity Server 4, another standard in the industry in the security area. ASP.NET Zero comes with some of the typical security-related pages we need to build for just any application, including login, registration, and so on. All login attempts will also be logged automatically, and users can be logged out. Other important security features are also enabled, including third-party authentication and two-factor authentication. Another core feature that is baked into ASP.NET Zero that we haven't discussed yet is multi-tenancy. While it's not required to be used, an ASP.NET Zero application can be used to serve multiple customers with a single solution. To support this, it includes customization options per tenant, subscription management, PayPal integration for payments, and much more. We'll see this briefly later in this course. It is not the purpose of this course to be an advertisement for ASP.NET Zero, and so therefore I'm not going to go through all of the features in more detail. There are, however, many more great features included in the box. ASP.NET Zero can easily be localized. Support for that is baked into the framework. It also comes with an easy way to manage settings within the application, and this also works nicely combined with the multi-tenancy aspect. The creators also make sure that the repeating tasks that we often as developers have to do are handled in a dry way. Let me explain. Think of how many lines of code you have written to handle exceptions, to manage logging, perform validation, and so on. These are so-called cross-cutting concerns. They need to be done throughout the application. ASP.NET Zero comes with support to perform all of these tasks easily without repeating ourselves. Another thing that we often spend time on is testing. Testing is hugely important. I probably don't have to explain that to you. The architecture that is included in ASP.NET Zero lends itself to easy testing. There are unit tests included based on XUnit. Also, Signal R is supported in the framework. This can be used for real-time push notification support within the application. And yes, like I mentioned, this is just a brief list of the features I find really important. There are definitely some more, but let's not waste too much time here. Although the creators of ASP.NET Zero have already made a lot of choices already, they understand that your company may be enforcing certain technology choices for your development work. For that reason, they don't offer ASP.NET Zero in just one single version. No, instead, you get the choice between different versions based on the different technology combinations. Let's say that the flagship version is based on ASP.NET Core and Angular. At the time of the creation of this tutorial, the latest version is ASP.NET Core 2.2 and Angular 6. To be clear, this version is a single-page version containing APIs and a lot of client-side functionality written in Angular. This version is also the one that we will be using in this course. Next, another version combines ASP.NET Core MVC with jQuery, so basically there's less client-side functionality in this case. Another option is based on slightly older technologies. It uses ASP.NET MVC, so not the core version, with Angular.js. Finally, there's also a completely different type of application based on Xamarin. This of course targets mobile applications that run natively on Android and iOS devices.